Welcome to Silent Queen's Reckoning. I'm so glad you could join us today. Now let's dive right into the story.
Chapter 1. Evelyn Voss was erased from her husband's gala list at 4:17 p.m. By 4:18, every private server owned by the Voss Meridian Trust knew exactly who had done it. And by 4:21, the woman Victor Hale called his quiet little wife was standing in her greenhouse, staring at the alert on her phone with wet soil on her fingers and ice in her eyes. Access revoked. Name, Evelyn Hale. Authorization, Victor Hale. Event, Meridian Global Vanguard Gala. For 3 seconds, Evelyn did not move. Rain tapped softly against the glass roof above her. Rows of white orchids lined the long greenhouse tables, their petals open and flawless beneath the warm lamps. A pair of pruning shears rested beside a clay pot. Her beige linen apron was smeared with soil. One loose strand of chestnut hair had fallen across her cheek. To anyone looking through the glass, she would have seemed like exactly what Victor believed she was. A soft woman. A harmless woman. A wife who spent her afternoons with flowers because she had nothing more important to manage. Evelyn looked at the screen again. He had deleted her. Not from a dinner reservation. Not from some casual cocktail hour. From the most important business event of the year. The gala where Victor planned to announce the merger that would make Hale Dynamics the most powerful private technology firm on the East Coast. The gala where cameras would flash, investors would applaud, and Victor would step onto a stage built with money he had never bothered to trace. Evelyn slowly wiped her fingers on a towel. Her face remained calm. That was the first dangerous thing about her. When pain entered the room, she did not perform for it. She tapped the alert open. The security log expanded. Guest status changed from VIP spouse to removed. Seat reassigned. New guest added, Celeste Marlowe. Evelyn stared at the name. Celeste Marlowe. Victor's so-called brand consultant. The 28-year-old woman with silver blonde hair, a sculpted smile, and a talent for touching Victor's arm whenever a camera appeared. The woman gossip columns called his modern muse. The woman Victor insisted was only helping the company look younger. Evelyn's lips curved, but there was no warmth in it. Younger. That was one way to describe a mistress. Her phone buzzed again. A message from Victor. Something came up. Tonight is board only. Too formal, too dull. Stay home and rest. You would hate it anyway. Evelyn read the message once. Then she looked around the greenhouse. Victor hated this place. He said the humidity ruined his suits. He said the flowers made the estate feel old-fashioned. He said she cared more about orchids than ambition. He never knew that this greenhouse sat on land held by the Voss Meridian Trust. He never knew the estate was not his marital home, but her family property. He never knew Hale Dynamics had survived its first collapse because a private investment fund had injected $80 million into it 6 years ago. He never knew that fund belonged to Evelyn. And he absolutely never knew that the gala he had just removed her from was not being held in his honor. It was being held under her authority. Evelyn set the phone on the potting table. For 9 years, she had allowed Victor to think she was small. She had let him call her simple. She had let him laugh when she wore cotton dresses instead of designer gowns. She had let him introduce her at dinners as, "My wife, Evelyn, she likes gardens," while men with weak handshakes and expensive watches looked through her as if she were part of the wallpaper. She had done it because her grandfather taught her that money spoken too early attracts parasites. She had done it because she once loved Victor enough to let him stand in sunlight she quietly paid for. She had done it because she wanted to know whether he loved her before he knew what she owned. Now she had her answer. Evelyn removed her gardening gloves, finger by finger. Then she opened a black application on her phone. It required her thumbprint, her face scan, and a passcode Victor would never have guessed because he had never cared enough to ask about her childhood. The screen turned dark green. A silver crest appeared. Voss Meridian Trust. She selected one contact, Rowan Vale. The call connected on the first ring. "Madam Chair," said a deep male voice. "We saw the access change." "Was it a mistake?" Evelyn asked. "No. Mr. Hale personally authorized the deletion. His assistant attempted to confirm twice. Mr. Hale insisted." Evelyn looked toward the rain sliding down the glass. "Who has my seat?" A pause. Celeste Marlowe. Title: Strategic Image Advisor. Evelyn gave a soft breath through her nose. Almost a laugh. Almost not. "Did Victor know the alert would reach us?" "No. He believes the Gala system is controlled by his events team." "Of course he does." Rowan waited. He had worked for the Voss family for 22 years. He understood that Evelyn's quietest moments were rarely merciful. "Do you want Hale Dynamics locked down?" he asked. "We can suspend merger approval within 10 minutes. "No." "Do you want his corporate cards frozen?" "Not yet." "Do you want the press notified?" "No, Rowan." "Tonight Victor wants an audience." Evelyn picked up the pruning shears and closed them once. The sharp click sounded clean in the damp air. "So we will give him one." Chapter 2. Victor Hale believed power was something people could see. That was why he stood in his penthouse office at Hale Dynamics 3 hours later, adjusting his cufflinks in the reflection of a black glass wall. The cufflinks were platinum. Evelyn had given them to him on their 5th anniversary. He had forgotten the date that year, then thanked her by saying they were almost too subtle. Now he wore them while preparing to humiliate her. The office sat above Manhattan like a glass cage for men who thought height was the same as importance. Behind Victor, the city glowed beneath gray evening clouds. Inside, the room smelled of espresso, cedarwood, and the faint chemical polish used on expensive furniture. Victor was 41, tall, clean-shaven, and handsome in the way ambitious men learn to become handsome. Dark hair brushed back, navy tuxedo cut close at the waist, smile rehearsed in elevators, interviews, and investor calls. Across from him stood his assistant, Jonah Reed. Jonah held a tablet in both hands. He was 30, anxious, observant, and currently trying not to look disgusted. "Sir," Jonah said carefully, "Mrs. Hale has always attended major company events." Victor did not turn. "Mrs. Hale attends charity lunches and local garden auctions. Tonight is not that. She is your wife." Victor's jaw tightened. "And Celeste is useful." Jonah looked down at the tablet. "The Voss Meridian representatives may notice the change." Victor laughed. "The Voss people notice numbers, not wives." Jonah said nothing. Victor turned then, his eyes sharp. "Do you have something to say?" Jonah swallowed. He thought of Evelyn Hale bringing soup to the office when half the staff had the flu. He thought of her remembering the names of interns Victor never looked at twice. He thought of the first funding round, when an anonymous investment saved all their jobs, and Victor celebrated as if genius alone had paid the debts. He also thought of rent. "No, sir." "Good." Victor crossed the room and picked up his phone. "Evelyn will be fine. She hates these things." "She knows about tonight?" "I told her it became board only." Jonah's fingers tightened around the tablet. Victor saw it and smiled. "You disapprove. I think she might be hurt." "Hurt?" Victor's voice turned light and cruel. "Evelyn is always quietly hurt by something. That is her specialty." He walked to the bar cart and poured a finger of whiskey, though the gala was less than 2 hours away. "She is a good woman," he continued. "But she does not belong in a room like that. She stands in corners. She asks waiters if they have eaten. She talks to people about soil acidity. You know what Sterling's people expect tonight? Speed, glamour, confidence. They need to see that Hale Dynamics is not some sentimental family business." "It is not a family business," Jonah said before he could stop himself. Victor looked at him. Jonah lowered his gaze. Victor smiled slowly. "Exactly." The office door opened before Jonah could answer. Celeste Marlowe stepped in like she owned the air. She wore a silver satin gown under a long white coat, Her blonde hair swept into a glossy twist, diamonds flashing at her ears. Her lips were painted a deep red that made her smile look expensive and dangerous. "Victor," she said, drawing out his name. "The car is downstairs. Are we still waiting for your little gardener?" Jonah went still. Victor's eyes flicked to him, then back to Celeste. "No," Victor said. "Evelyn is staying home." Celeste smiled. It was not surprise. It was victory. She crossed the office and brushed imaginary lint from his lapel. "Smart man." Victor caught her wrist lightly. "Careful." "Why? You deleted her, didn't you?" Jonah looked up. Victor's face darkened. "That is company business." Celeste gave Jonah a lazy glance. "Then your assistant can forget he heard it." Jonah's expression did not change, but his stomach turned. Celeste turned back to Victor. "Listen to me. Tonight cannot look uncertain. If you arrive with a wife no one remembers and she stands beside you looking like she wants to go home, people will think you are still attached to your old life." "She helped me through my old life," Victor said, though his voice lacked conviction. Celeste's hand slid down his tie. "And now you are entering your new one." Victor studied her face. Celeste knew exactly what to give men like him. Admiration with hunger under it. Flattery sharpened into strategy. The illusion that betrayal was not betrayal if it came dressed as ambition. "You should be beside me when I announce the merger," he said. "I will be." "You understand what tonight means?" "I understand," Celeste said. "After tonight, Hale Dynamics is untouchable." Victor smiled. He believed her. That was the problem with arrogant men. They heard echoes and mistook them for prophecy. On the tablet in Jonah's hands, a small internal note appeared from the Gala security system. Guest designation update pending. Name, Evelyn Voss. Jonah blinked. "Voss?" He looked again, but the note vanished. "Jonah," Victor snapped. "Yes, sir. Send the final guest list to print." Jonah hesitated. Then he pressed send. Chapter 3. Evelyn did not rush. At 6 o'clock, she walked through the side entrance of the estate and left her muddy boots by the garden door. The house was quiet. Not lonely. Quiet. There was a difference, and she had learned it slowly. The estate was old stone and black shutters, with ivy climbing the east wall and a library Victor had once called dramatic. He preferred the Manhattan penthouse, where everything was glass and chrome and photographed well. Evelyn preferred rooms that remembered. She crossed the kitchen, where a copper pot hung above the island, and a bowl of lemons sat in afternoon light. The housekeeper had left for the day. Victor had not been home since morning. For years, Evelyn had liked preparing dinner on nights he returned late. She found comfort in small rituals. Soup, bread. A lamp left on in the hall. A cup of tea near the chair he never sat in anymore. Tonight, she walked past the stove without stopping. In the bedroom, she opened the wardrobe Victor knew. Soft sweaters, plain dresses, comfortable shoes, a row of floral prints he considered safe. Then Evelyn pressed her palm against the back panel. A hidden lock clicked. The rear wall slid open. Behind it was a climate-controlled dressing room Victor had never entered, because he believed there was nothing about his wife worth discovering. Velvet gowns hung in dark rows, archival couture, tailored suits. Diamond cases locked behind glass. On the far wall stood a fireproof cabinet containing passports, trust documents, property deeds, and voting proxies worth more than Victor's entire public valuation. Evelyn stood in the doorway, her face unreadable. She remembered the first time Victor mocked her clothes. They had been married barely a year. He was still fighting to keep his company alive. She had worn a navy dress to a small investor dinner. Nothing flashy, but elegant. He had leaned close and whispered, "Maybe next time, let me help you choose. These people expect a certain polish." She had smiled and let him think she was embarrassed. That night, she called Rowan and approved the second bridge loan that kept Victor's payroll alive. Love, she had once believed, meant giving without keeping score. Marriage had taught her that giving to the wrong person only made him believe he was the source. Her phone rang. This time it was a video call. Natalia Voss appeared on screen, Evelyn's cousin and trustee, short black hair, sharp cheekbones, a glass of wine already in hand despite the hour. "I heard," Natalia said. "Of course you did." "He deleted you from your own gala?" Yes. Natalia stared for half a second. Then she laughed once, cold and delighted. "That man has the survival instinct of a candle in a storm." Evelyn opened a jewelry case. Natalia's smile faded slightly. "Are you all right?" Evelyn touched the edge of a sapphire necklace. "I do not know yet." "That is honest." "I thought I had made peace with who he was becoming," Evelyn said. "I thought vanity was not the same as cruelty." "And now?" "Now I think vanity is cruelty when it needs someone else to kneel." Natalia's eyes softened. "You do not have to attend. We can end him from a conference call." "No," Evelyn said. "He wanted me absent. That is the one thing he does not get." She selected a dark green velvet gown. Simple at first glance, severe in shape, cut to follow the body without pleading for attention. The neckline was clean, the sleeves long, the fabric moved like shadow. Natalia nodded. Eleanor would approve. At the mention of their grandmother, Evelyn paused. Eleanor Voss had been the kind of woman men called difficult when they meant unbeatable. She built Voss Meridian from shipping insurance, medical real estate, and patent acquisitions. She raised Evelyn after Evelyn's parents died, and she taught her two lessons that had shaped her life. Never confuse being loved with being used. Never reveal your crown to someone who has not respected your bare head. Evelyn had failed at the first. Tonight she would correct the second. Rowan called as she fastened the necklace. "Madam Chair, your arrival designation has been updated." Read it. "Evelyn Voss, Controlling Chair, Voss Meridian Trust." "And Victor?" "He remains listed as keynote speaker, pending your direction. Let him keep the microphone," Evelyn said. Rowan was silent for a beat. Then he said, "That is cruel." "No," Evelyn said. "Cruel was deleting his wife so his mistress could sit in her chair. This is evidence." Chapter 4. The Meridian Global Vanguard Gala was held at the Callaway Hall, a restored marble building overlooking the East River. By 7:30, the entrance blazed with lights. Black cars glided to the curb. Reporters shouted names. Cameras flashed against wet pavement. Security moved in quiet coordination behind velvet ropes. The guest list included senators, founders, fund managers, media executives, and the kind of old money heirs who never appeared on rich lists because appearing on lists was for people still trying to prove something. Victor stepped from his car with Celeste on his arm. The cameras found them at once. Celeste leaned into the light. Her silver gown caught every flash. Her hand rested on Victor's sleeve, intimate enough to say possession without saying scandal. "Victor, over here. Is the Sterling merger closing tonight? Who is your guest?" Victor smiled the smile he used for magazine covers. "This is Celeste Marlowe, our strategic image advisor. She has been invaluable in repositioning Hale Dynamics for the next generation." Celeste lowered her lashes, perfectly timed. A reporter called out, "Where is Mrs. Hale tonight?" Victor did not miss a beat. "Evelyn is resting at home. These events are not really her world." Celeste laughed softly, then added, "Some women are happier with flowers than flashbulbs." Several reporters chuckled. The clip went live within seconds. In a town car 3 blocks away, Evelyn watched it on a screen built into the seatback. She did not react to Victor's lie. She reacted to Celeste's smile. There was something specific in it. Not just arrogance. Enjoyment. Celeste liked saying it publicly. She liked placing Evelyn in the dirt while standing under lights. Evelyn turned off the screen. Across from her, Rowan Vale sat in a black suit, silver hair neat, expression carved from stone. He was 58, broad-shouldered, with the kind of stillness that made younger men lower their voices. The clip is circulating, he said. Good. Good? If a man digs his own grave, Rowan, it is rude to interrupt. At the gala entrance, Victor and Celeste moved inside. The main hall shimmered under crystal chandeliers. White orchids spilled from tall vases. Gold name cards marked the front tables. A string quartet played near the staircase. Waiters passed champagne. The air was polished, hungry, and expensive. Victor looked at the room and felt a rush of triumph. This was what he wanted. No quiet wife asking if he had eaten. No soft hand reaching for his when he was distracted. No woman beside him who remembered him before he was important. Only power. Only image. Only Celeste smiling beside him, like proof that he had finally become the man he pretended to be. Arthur Sterling approached with his wife, Mary Ann. Arthur was 63, silver-haired, heavy-set, and famous for buying companies from men who thought they were negotiating until they realized too late they had been evaluated. Mary Ann Sterling was elegant, observant, and far less easily impressed than her husband. Victor extended his hand. Arthur, Mary Ann, wonderful to see you. Arthur shook his hand. His eyes moved to Celeste. And Mrs. Hale? Victor's smile held. Under the weather. Mary Ann's brows lifted. That is unfortunate. I was hoping to thank her. Victor blinked. Thank her? For the Children's Recovery Wing in Hartford, Mary Ann said. The one funded through the Voss Meridian charitable arm. Evelyn hosted the donor walkthrough last spring, did she not? Victor's smile thinned. He had known Evelyn helped charities. He had not known important people noticed. She does enjoy her little projects, he said lightly. Mary Ann's expression cooled. Celeste, sensing danger, stepped in with a glittering smile. Victor means Evelyn has such a kind heart. But tonight is really about business, isn't it? Arthur looked at her for a long second. Yes, he said. That is exactly what concerns me. Before Victor could answer, the lights dimmed once. A signal. The event director hurried to the side of the stage, speaking into a headset. Security shifted near the main doors. Celeste glanced around. What is happening? Arthur's gaze sharpened. I believe the Voss Meridian chair has arrived. Victor straightened. The chair is here? Apparently. Victor's pulse quickened. The Voss Meridian chair had never attended a Hale event in person. The trust sent lawyers, analysts, proxies. Never the actual chair. If Victor could impress them tonight, the merger would be sealed beyond question. He moved toward the center aisle, tugging Celeste with him. Smile, he murmured. This matters. Celeste adjusted her posture. The massive doors opened. For a moment, only a silhouette appeared against the white light of the entrance. A woman. The room quieted. Then Evelyn Voss stepped into the hall. Chapter 5 Victor's mind rejected her before his eyes could accept her. The woman at the doors had Evelyn's face, but not the Evelyn he kept in his head, not the wife in linen aprons, not the woman with soil under her nails, not the quiet figure he left in kitchens, gardens, and corners. This woman wore dark green velvet and sapphires the color of deep water. Her chestnut hair was swept back from her face, revealing the fine bones Victor had stopped noticing years ago. Her makeup was minimal, her gaze direct, her posture effortless. She did not look decorated. She looked revealed. The hall rose. Not all at once. That made it worse. First Arthur Sterling, then Mary Ann, then the Voss Meridian legal team, then the senior bankers, then the senators, then the rest of the room, following power the way rooms always did. Celeste's fingers tightened on Victor's arm. Why are they standing? She whispered. Victor could not answer. The event director stepped to the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Evelyn Voss, controlling chair of the Voss Meridian Trust. The applause began. Victor felt the blood drain from his face. Celeste turned toward him, eyes wide. Voss? Evelyn walked down the center aisle. She did not hurry. She did not search for approval. She moved through the room as if every chandelier, every orchid, every marble column had been waiting for her permission to shine. Victor stepped forward, half from instinct, half from panic. Evelyn. She stopped before him. For 1 second, the cameras caught them together. Husband and wife, the man who erased her and the woman who owned the list. Victor, she said. Her voice was calm, smooth, public enough to be heard by those nearest them. You said tonight was board only. A ripple moved through the crowd. Victor forced a laugh. It sounded wrong. There was a misunderstanding. Yes, Evelyn said. You misunderstood who the board answers to. Celeste's face hardened. She recovered faster than Victor. Well, Celeste said brightly. This is dramatic. I suppose anyone can make an entrance if they overdress enough. The silence that followed was delicious. Evelyn turned to her. Not sharply. Slowly. Celeste lifted her chin. Former model. Current consultant. Tenant in a Soho apartment owned by Voss Meridian Residential. Wearing a borrowed gown from Laurent House, where your styling invoice is billed to Hale Dynamics under executive branding expenses. Celeste's mouth parted. Evelyn continued, still calm. You also arrived tonight in a company car charged to a discretionary account that requires board approval for non-employee guests. Celeste's confidence cracked at the edges. Victor leaned in. Evelyn, stop. She looked at him. No. One word. Flat enough to cut glass. Arthur Sterling stepped forward, his expression grave. Madam Chair, he said. We were not aware you had been removed from the guest list. Neither was I until my security system informed me. Marianne Sterling's eyes moved to Victor, then to Celeste. The room understood. Not everything. Not yet. But enough. Victor felt it. The shift. The invisible step backward taken by every person who had been leaning toward him a moment ago. He reached for Evelyn's elbow, needing to control the scene, to guide her away, to turn this into a private marital misunderstanding. Before his fingers touched her sleeve, Rowan Vale appeared at her side. Mr. Hale, Rowan said quietly, do not touch the chair. Victor stared at him. He knew Rowan. Or thought he did. Rowan was the severe Voss lawyer who appeared on calls and said little. Victor had always found him irritating. Now Rowan stood between him and Evelyn like a locked door. I am her husband, Victor snapped. Rowan's eyes did not move. Tonight, that is not the relevant title. A camera flashed. Victor heard it like a gunshot. Chapter 6. The seating chart changed in 5 minutes. That was how quickly power corrected a room. Evelyn was placed at the head table between Arthur Sterling and the governor's chief economic advisor. Victor's card moved 2 seats away. Celeste's disappeared entirely because she had no formal standing once her expense status was flagged. She ended up near a side table with minor influencers and 2 men who stopped listening to her the moment they realized she had arrived with the wrong person. Victor sat rigid in his chair, jaw tight, hands clenched beneath the tablecloth. Evelyn spoke with Arthur Sterling as if nothing unusual had happened. That enraged him more than shouting would have. She discussed supply chain exposure, patent licensing, regulatory timelines, and cross-border merger compliance, with the crisp ease of someone who had read every file. Arthur listened with increasing respect. Marianne smiled twice. Victor watched them and felt something ugly rise in his throat. He had built a career on being the smartest person in rooms where no one challenged the premise. Evelyn was not challenging him. She was making him irrelevant. When the first course was cleared, he leaned toward her. What are you doing? He whispered. Evelyn did not look at him. Having dinner. You blindsided me. You deleted me. His fingers dug into the napkin. This is my company. Now she turned. The look she gave him was not angry. It was worse. It was disappointed. No, Victor. It is a company you manage because my trust financed it, protected it, and allowed you to remain its public face. His face flushed. I founded it. And I kept it alive. You hid this from me. You never asked a question that was not about what you could use. He recoiled as if slapped. At the edge of the room, Celeste was watching them with pale fury. Her red mouth had lost its shape. She kept checking her phone, likely discovering that borrowed luxury vanishes quickly when invoices are reviewed. The program began. The event director returned to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we gather to celebrate innovation, stewardship, and the pending strategic merger between Hale Dynamics and Sterling Systems. Applause. Victor's name appeared on the screen. Keynote address. Victor Hale. He stood. For half a second, he considered walking out. Then pride dragged him to the stage. He took the microphone. The room clapped politely. Victor looked at the audience, then at Evelyn seated beneath the stage lights, serene as a verdict. His prepared speech loaded on the screen. Growth, vision, bold leadership. The same hollow phrases that had carried him for years. He began well enough. He spoke about risk. He spoke about future markets. He spoke about building a company from nothing. Evelyn listened. When he said from nothing, her mouth moved almost imperceptibly. Victor saw it. He lost his place. A pause opened. He recovered with a laugh. Of course, no company succeeds alone. Tonight is about partnership. He looked at Arthur. Then at Evelyn. Something desperate came into his eyes. And partnership, he continued, requires trust. Evelyn lifted her hand. The event director froze. Victor's smile stiffened. Evelyn stood. Since Mr. Hale has raised the subject of trust, she said, this is the appropriate moment to clarify the status of tonight's merger. Victor's grip tightened on the microphone. Evelyn. She walked to the stage steps. No one stopped her. Why would they? She was the reason the room existed. Victor tried to keep his voice low. Do not do this. She reached the stage and stood beside him. I am not doing anything, Victor. You are. She turned to the audience. 2 hours ago, I was removed from this gala's guest list by the chief executive of Hale Dynamics. A murmur swept the hall. Victor's face burned. My seat was reassigned to a consultant whose expenses were billed through corporate accounts without proper authorization. Celeste stood abruptly near the side table, then sat again when every eye turned toward her. Evelyn continued. That might sound personal. It is not. It is governance. The screen behind her changed. Jonah Reed had acted faster than Victor expected. A document appeared. Expense irregularities. Unauthorized guest clearance change. Misrepresentation to merger counterparties. Executive misuse of corporate funds. Victor turned toward the control booth, stunned. Jonah stood there, white-faced but steady. Evelyn did not look at him. She did not need to. Mr. Hale has also represented to Sterling Systems that he holds controlling authority over merger approval. He does not. Arthur Sterling's jaw tightened. Victor stepped toward her. Enough. Rowan rose from the front row. Victor stopped. Evelyn faced the hall. Voss Meridian Trust holds the controlling preferred shares, the patent security interest, and the final approval rights on this merger. As chair, I am suspending approval pending full review. The room erupted. Not loudly. Powerful rooms rarely explode. They hiss, they whisper, they calculate. Victor felt the calculation turn against him. He grabbed the microphone. This is a domestic dispute, he said, voice rising. My wife is upset because she misunderstood an event protocol. She is emotional. The word landed. Emotional. Evelyn looked at him, and for the first time all night, her eyes showed something like sorrow. Victor had used that word for years. When she asked why he came home smelling of unfamiliar perfume, when she questioned late transfers, when she wondered why he mocked her in front of clients. Emotional. A neat little cage disguised as concern. Evelyn took another microphone from the podium. No, Victor, she said. Emotion is deleting your wife from a guest list because your mistress told you she would make better photographs. A stunned sound moved through the hall. Celeste stood again. That is a lie. Evelyn glanced at her. Would you like me to play the elevator audio from Hale Tower? Celeste went silent. Victor's face changed. Audio? Evelyn turned back to him. Hale Tower security recordings are company property. Company property under review due to the misuse of corporate accounts. His lips parted. On the screen, a transcript appeared. Celeste, if you cannot even remove her name, how can investors believe you control anything? Victor, Evelyn will believe whatever I tell her. Celeste, then tell her to stay in her garden. Victor, done. The hall went completely still. Victor heard his own words without the warmth of his own excuses around them. They sounded vile. Chapter 7. Celeste ran first. Not physically. She was too careful for that. She walked quickly toward the side exit, chin high, phone pressed to her ear, pretending she had somewhere more important to be. 2 reporters followed. A photographer caught the moment her borrowed gown snagged on a chair and tore near the hem. The sound was small, the humiliation was not. A security officer stopped her near the door. Miss Marlowe, the finance team needs to confirm outstanding corporate charges before you leave. Celeste turned red. Do you know who I am? The officer looked at the tablet in his hand. Yes, ma'am. That is why I am stopping you. Across the room, Victor watched her abandon him and understood too late what kind of loyalty glamour buys. None. Arthur Sterling approached the stage. His voice was controlled, but anger sat behind it like a storm behind glass. Victor, did you misrepresent your authority in our negotiations? Victor's mind raced. If he admitted it, he was finished. If he denied it, Evelyn likely had documents. She always had documents. How had he never noticed that? I was acting in the company's best interest, Victor said. Evelyn's gaze did not move from his face. No, she said. You were acting in your image's best interest. Arthur looked at her. Madam Chair, was Sterling Systems exposed to unauthorized risk? We are reviewing that now. Then I want the merger paused until your review is complete. Victor turned on him. Arthur, come on, you know me. Arthur's expression hardened. I thought I did. That sentence did something to Victor. It stripped away the last layer of performance. He faced Evelyn with open fury. You think you can humiliate me in front of everyone and still run my company? Evelyn said nothing. I built that company with blood, with payroll I funded, with my ideas, with patents held as collateral by my trust, with my name hidden beneath yours. His mouth twisted. You were happy to hide. Do not pretend otherwise. You liked playing the saint in the garden while I carried the pressure. Evelyn stepped closer. No. I loved you enough to let you carry the title. I was foolish enough to think you would grow into the responsibility. Victor laughed harshly. You loved me? You lied to me. I protected myself. From your husband? From exactly this. The words struck. Victor looked around the hall. The investors, the cameras, the executives who had laughed at his jokes and admired his suits. Their faces had changed. He was no longer the visionary founder. He was a man whose wife had been quietly underwriting his legend. His ego could not survive it. She is nothing without the Voss name, he shouted. Do you hear me? Nothing. She plants flowers and signs papers other people prepare. I made Hale Dynamics visible. I made it matter. Evelyn's voice stayed quiet. You made it loud. The room absorbed the difference. Rowan walked to the stage and handed Evelyn a slim folder. She opened it. Victor Hale is hereby suspended as chief executive of Hale Dynamics, pending board review, financial audit, and investigation into misuse of corporate resources. Victor stared at the folder. You cannot suspend me. The board can. The emergency vote concluded 12 minutes ago. His eyes darted to the front table. 3 board members looked away. Jonah stood near the control booth, face pale but resolved. Victor's voice dropped. Jonah. Jonah flinched, then lifted his chin. You asked me to delete your wife from the list, he said. You asked me to remove her security clearance. You asked me to classify Miss Marlowe as a strategic advisor so the company could cover her expenses. I documented all of it. Victor looked at him like a traitor. You owe me your career. Jonah's voice shook but held. No, sir. Mrs. Hale saved my job 6 years ago when your first payroll failed. You never knew, because she never made us thank her. Something moved across Evelyn's face then. Not triumph. Grief, because there it was. The truth of the last decade. She had helped quietly, too quietly. She had believed generosity did not need witnesses. But in a world full of victors, unseen generosity was often stolen and renamed. Victor lunged for the folder. Rowan caught his arm. The movement was swift and controlled. Victor tried to jerk free, but Rowan did not release him. Careful, Rowan said. There are cameras everywhere. Victor froze. The cameras had loved him for years. Tonight they recorded the end of him. Chapter 8. The formal removal happened in a private boardroom behind the hall. That was Evelyn's choice, not because Victor deserved privacy, but because she refused to turn governance into theater beyond what evidence required. Victor sat at the long table, jacket open, bow tie loosened, hair no longer perfect. The arrogance had not left him, but panic had soaked through it. Evelyn sat opposite him. Rowan stood behind her. Arthur Sterling joined by video as an affected party. 3 board members attended in person. Jonah sat near the door, hands folded so tightly his knuckles had gone white. Celeste was not there. Her lawyer had apparently advised silence. A corporate counsel named Mira Ellis read the resolution. Effective immediately, Victor Hale was suspended from executive control. His company access was revoked. His corporate cards were frozen. His office devices were secured. His authority to represent Hale Dynamics in merger negotiations was terminated pending full investigation. Victor laughed once. It was a dry, broken sound. So that is it? My wife gets embarrassed and steals my company? Mira did not blink. You do not own a controlling stake. I am the founder. Founding is not ownership. He looked at Evelyn. You planned this. No. You triggered this. He slapped his palm on the table. Because I took someone else to a gala? Because you misused company funds, misrepresented your authority, exposed a pending merger to reputational risk, and retaliated against the controlling chair by revoking access. You were listed as my spouse. I was listed that way because I allowed it. His eyes glittered with hate. You loved being invisible. It made you feel superior. Evelyn leaned forward slightly. I was invisible because I thought love did not need an audience. You taught me the cost of that mistake. For a second, something like shame flickered in his face. Then it vanished. Celeste meant nothing, he said. Evelyn looked at him, almost curious. You say that as if it helps. She pushed me. She wanted the seat. She wanted the photos. I was under pressure. And yet your finger deleted my name. He had no answer. The review continued. There was no dramatic police entrance, no instant prison, no screaming collapse. Real consequences arrived in documents, signatures, compliance holds, and revoked permissions. That made them colder. By midnight, Victor's building access failed. By morning, Hale Dynamics issued a statement announcing a temporary leadership transition. By noon, 3 business outlets ran the same clip. Victor Hale said his wife was not suited for the gala. Then she walked in as the chair. The internet did what the internet does. It replayed his lie. It replayed Celeste's flower comment. It replayed Evelyn's line about governance. It replayed Victor calling her emotional while the transcript behind him proved otherwise. Celeste tried to post a statement about being misled by a powerful man. Then someone leaked the elevator audio. Her statement disappeared. Within 48 hours, Laurent House demanded payment for the torn gown. Voss Meridian Residential declined to renew her luxury apartment lease due to unpaid balances. 3 brands quietly ended pending contracts. Celeste called Victor 17 times. He answered once. What are you going to do? she demanded. Victor stood in the lobby of a hotel he had booked with a personal card that still worked, staring at his reflection in a brass elevator door. What am I going to do? He repeated. You said she was nobody. He closed his eyes. No sentence had ever sounded so expensive. Chapter 9. The divorce papers arrived 2 weeks later. Victor did not sign them. At first, he tried anger, then delay, then charm, then memory. He sent Evelyn flowers to the estate. White roses, the kind he used to buy when he forgot anniversaries. She donated them to a hospital reception desk. He called from unknown numbers. She let them ring. He emailed a long letter titled, Our Marriage. Rowan's office archived it without response. Finally, 6 months after the gala, Victor requested an in-person meeting. Evelyn agreed because the marriage deserved an ending spoken aloud, even if the man did not. They met in the Manhattan office that had once been his. It looked different now. Gone were the framed magazine covers praising Victor's genius. Gone was the black glass desk he had chosen because it looked powerful and reflected his face from every angle. The room had been redesigned with warm wood, clear surfaces, living plants, and one framed photograph of Eleanor Voss in a construction helmet. Evelyn stood by the window when Victor entered. He had lost weight. His suit was still expensive, but not new. His hair was carefully styled to hide stress. His eyes moved around the office, touching the changes like wounds. You redecorated, he said. Yes. It looks less impressive. It works better. He gave a bitter smile. Always efficient. Evelyn turned. She wore a cream suit, no jewelry except small pearl earrings and the Voss Signet ring. Her hair was gathered low at her neck. She looked calm, not soft in the way he remembered. Calm in the way stone is calm. Mira Ellis placed the divorce documents on the table. Victor sat. For a few minutes the lawyers spoke. Property, settlement, non-disparagement, cooperation with the corporate investigation. No claim to the estate. No claim to trust assets. No claim to Hale Dynamics beyond the limited founder shares already restricted by misconduct clauses. Victor stared at the signature line. Then he looked up. Did you ever love me? Evelyn did not answer at once. Yes, she said finally. His mouth tightened, as if he had expected denial and prepared for it better. Then why destroy me? I did not destroy you. He laughed under his breath. I lost my company. You lost control you abused. I lost my reputation. You exposed it. I lost you. There. Evelyn felt something, not enough to pull her back, enough to remind her she had once been human with him. You lost me long before the gala, she said. The gala was when I found out. Victor looked down. For a moment, the old charm tried to return. It came weakly now, like a song played on a broken instrument. Evelyn, I was ashamed. Of me, of myself, he said quickly. Of needing your money, of knowing deep down that I could not have built it without help. Celeste made me feel like I had become someone. Evelyn's eyes sharpened. No, Celeste reflected the person you wanted to pretend to be. That is not the same as making you someone. His hand trembled near the pen. I am living in a serviced apartment in Queens. She said nothing. I consult for companies that used to beg for meetings with me. Still nothing. I am trying, he said, voice cracking. Is there no way back? Evelyn looked at him for a long time. She remembered him at 29, standing in a tiny rented office with broken blinds, telling her he would change the world. She remembered believing him. She remembered paying the overdue lease through a shelf fund that same week. She remembered making herself smaller every year afterward so his pride would not have to bend. No, she said. The word was not cruel. That made it final. Victor's face hardened. Humiliation always found anger in him faster than regret. You will be alone, he said. You know that, right? Men will fear you now. They will smile at your money, but they will never love you. Evelyn looked almost amused. You still think being loved by a man like you is proof of a woman's worth. He gripped the pen. You were easier to love when you stayed in the garden. I was easier to use. He signed. The scratch of the pen was quiet. Mira collected the papers. Victor stood, smoothing his jacket with a hand that was not steady. At the door, he turned back. What was I to you in the end? He asked. A mistake? Evelyn considered that. No, she said. A lesson I paid too much for. He left. The door closed. For the first time in years, the silence that followed did not ask anything from her. Chapter 10. Spring returned to the estate slowly. First came the pale green tips along the hedges. Then rain. Then the stubborn white orchids in the greenhouse, blooming as if nothing human had ever lied beneath their glass roof. Evelyn spent a Saturday morning there with dirt on her hands. Not hiding. Working. There was a difference now. Her phone rested on the potting table, screen lit with messages from Rowan, Natalia, and the new Hale Dynamics interim CEO. The company had stabilized. The merger with Sterling Systems had been renegotiated under stricter governance terms. Jonah Reed had been promoted to operations director. Celeste Marlowe had vanished from public view after one last failed interview in which she called herself a casualty of capitalism. Victor had not contacted Evelyn again. Sometimes she wondered whether that hurt. Most days it did not. She clipped a dead stem from an orchid and placed it in a basket. Natalia entered carrying 2 coffees and wearing boots wholly unsuited for mud. This place is humid, Natalia complained. You say that every time. And every time I am right. Evelyn smiled. Natalia handed her a coffee, then glanced toward the table. The foundation documents are ready. Evelyn wiped her hands. The name? The Unlisted Fund. For a moment, Evelyn was quiet. The Unlisted Fund would support women leaving financially controlling marriages. Legal aid, emergency housing, career grants, quiet exits for people who had been made small in rooms no one recorded. Natalia watched her. Too direct? No, Evelyn said. Direct is good. She signed the first document with a pen she kept in the greenhouse drawer. Not a boardroom, not a gala stage, not in front of cameras. Here, where Victor once believed she wasted her time. Natalia leaned against the table. Do you ever regret not telling him sooner? Evelyn looked at the orchids. I regret believing love required me to disappear. The answer surprised them both. Rain began again, soft on the glass. Evelyn thought of the gala list, her name removed with one tap. Her seat handed to another woman. Her husband's lie delivered with a smile. At the time, it had felt like an insult. Now she understood it had been an opening. Some betrayals do not take you out of your life. They show you where you had already left yourself. Victor thought deleting Evelyn's name would make the room cleaner, sharper, more impressive. He thought power meant choosing who was visible. He never understood that real power does not panic when ignored. It waits. It watches. And when the moment comes, it enters through the front doors under its own name. Evelyn picked up a small brass plant marker and pressed it into the soil beside a newly potted orchid. White Voss, a rare variety, slow to bloom, difficult to force, stronger when left to grow at its own pace. Natalia looked at it and laughed softly, subtle. I am done being subtle. Outside the greenhouse, the clouds parted enough for a blade of sun to cut through the rain. Light struck the glass roof and scattered across the rows of flowers. Evelyn stood in that brightness, coffee warm in one hand, soil on the other, and felt no need to choose between the woman who grew things and the woman who owned them. She was both. She had always been both. The world had simply been late to notice. If you enjoy powerful stories about betrayal, hidden strength, and justice served with precision, subscribe for more emotional stories made for immersive listening.